Nick. How's it going?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Yourself?
Good.
Good.
The drought thing of the past?
No, we're still in the drought.
We're still in the drought?
We're still in the drought, but we get some water. We're getting some water to help grow, so it's limiting the amount of irrigation that we have to do. So it's nice to be getting some water. That's the thing. Yeah, we haven't getting any, so no, has not gotten removed the drought. And a matter of fact, if you just go out there right now, and it rained a little bit this morning, and then we missed some of the thunderstorms again, but it was just up with the potatoes. The soil's completely dry on the surface. It's just, you pick it up, it's dry, friable soil. Right, it's completely dry.
So lots of watering still.
Yeah, irrigation goes on almost nonstop, but not as rapidly. But for certain areas, smaller parts of fields, almost all day long.
What else is going on? What do you want to show us today?
What's really going on now is harvest, because now we get the fruits of our labor. Yeah, so much of our efforts now go towards getting the crop in and processing it, and paying really close attention to how we handle the product when we're harvesting it, and how we handle it after we harvest it. Post-harvest handling, that's the key to the preservation of the fruit, to keep it fresher longer. Any of the product is post-harvest handling. Sometime we'll take a look at that, and I'll show you precisely what we do. It's basically a lot of water cooling. Almost everything gets harvested into a bucket of water. So right away you just stop the process of taking the field heat out of the product, you bring it inside, it goes into a big sink again, it gets dumped out, washed again, the bucket of cold water. So everything gets chilled really quickly, and then it goes into coolers or into refrigerator. What you're doing is you're stopping this process of enzymatic activity in the plant, where the plant, in the heat, as soon as you cut it, it wants to get soft. It wants to soften, and these enzymes are released, and it breaks down cell walls, and cell walls soften in the plant. Because that's what the plant wants to decompose, and that's when the microbes would come in and decompose it, but the plant softens on its own. And if you put it in cold water right away, you can stop that reaction, that enzymatic reaction, completely. And that doesn't occur, and then when I give it to you, it goes in your refrigerator, and then you're like, this lettuce is still fresh, and it's 2 weeks old. And that's because it never really started to soften. If you take your lettuce plant, Wes, and you cut it out of your garden, and on a hot day or in a warm, and you just put it in the ground and bring it in the house, like maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, when it's hot, it's got wilted, too late. Too late. You can try to rehydrate it, but the process really has already begun. So harvest your greens directly into a bucket of cold water.
So bring a bucket with you when you're harvesting.
We do. We go out in the field with the buckets of water.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's a really good, important point in post-harvest handling. So we're doing a lot of that. To go back to your question, it's harvesting, and that's where most of our time is now. Where we got ahead on the weeding, we put a big rush on them, so now, because we knew we'd have to neglect that for a while, because now with a lot of harvesting. The weeds will make another push in the fall, and even in the late summer, and they'll try to take the farm over again in a couple of weeks. We'll be ready.
Great. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So we got 6 harvests out of that last lettuce bed, but then the plants got too big and they were old and they were going to lose their quality. And that last heat wave we just had, those lettuce plants, believe it or not, were 2 feet, 3 feet tall in here. Then we're not going to harvest off those. We immediately pulled them out, composted them, and the same day planted these little babies, which we had started about a month ago in little plug trays. I think I showed you those. So they've been waiting for their big moment, and now their moment, they jump right in. The bed was unoccupied for about 2 hours, and then it was occupied again. We have some overflow out here, and we're still growing them underneath the shade in this case, because we still can have a lot of heat. They don't like heat. But we'll have a good observation here too to see the difference maybe between these guys and these guys. If we see a difference, we have some extra plants, so we pop them in right beside it.
These look greener, actually.
Yeah.
Right now.
They could. It might be an effect of the light being diffused through the cover that you're looking at it from. But we'll see. We'll see what they do. But this lettuce obviously is not ready to go, but it will be fast. It'll grow quickly in this heat. But we'll have a gap in there where we won't have any lettuce, which happens in the summer. But that's when we fill in with our other greens. This is where we now have our kale and our Swiss chard, and we sell some mustard greens and some arugula. So we will work with those greens while these greens come in, and then the next we'll have new greens coming in after that, as you'll see. Real continuous planting. Looks good in here. There are carrots down under there now. sure are. We'll have to do a carrot harvest maybe next week. Have to thin this bed out. Yeah. So we're about a third of the way through the harvest season. Quick update on the heart of the farm here, the compost pile. You can see we're filling it. We're filling it with nitrogen sources and with carbon sources. This is from the animals and their bedding. And we have some. Here are the plants we just pulled, and we're adding that. So that's a nice nitrogen source. Do I worry about it being overrun by weeds? Not in the least. They're welcome being here. What I'm going to do is when I come with the tractor, they're just going to be rolled right into it, and then their mass will also increase. Will increase their biomass in the pile itself. Eventually, it'll all get cooked down. When I get the pile big and tall enough for the fall, it'll heat up and it will cook all of these. So we'll do that for now. We'll just keep filling it and piling it in, and then it's going to go down. And we're going to, like all season long, we've been able to pull so much out of the finished pile, and we'll be able to rejuvenate that pile. We fill that pile in the fall. Okay, quick take a look at the orchard here now too. Apple growth is occurring. They're getting bigger. They're behind where they were last year because of the lack of rain. We had one big rainstorm, but overall it's been dry-ish. We are in a drought, and they're like little water balloons, so they do need the water in order to grow. But the trees themselves are healthy. We had some fire blight in here 2 years ago. We did a lot of copper sprays. I think we got it under control for this year, so I don't see a lot of it in the orchard. There'll always be some. There's none on this tree, so that's good. You have to spray your orchard, your trees with something, because there's a myriad of insects and diseases which can really just kill a tree, including the fire blight. So you have to be really good at it, of knowing your timing your spray to try to get a pest when you can get them, and use the absolute safest material that you can use, and use it as infrequently as possible. That's the goal for any orchardist. And these trees, I've done that this year. Last year I followed the UNH, all the UNH recommended sprayings at the proper timing to see what we got, and we ended up with some absolutely perfect fruit, as you remember. Perfect in shape and size, and everyone perfect without a blemish, and because I followed as the rules would require. This year, kind of scaled back a little bit to see how much I can get away with. Can I skip out some of these sprays that they're saying that I need? So I went without them on several occasions, because that's always been, you know me, that's always my thing, is to see how many we can eliminate and try to eliminate them entirely. You can't with an apple tree and have any commercial apples at all. I tried that when I first grew these, and the trees almost died from the fire blight disease, and all the apples were unmarketable and horribly misshapen, the few that there were, when there's no spray apples for these trees. It just doesn't happen. So you find the proper sprays, you do your research, and you use them at the exact perfect time, as infrequently as possible, and that's my goal. And this year it's working pretty good, because I've cut way back. I think I've sprayed exactly half many times as last year, and we've still got some really pretty fruit. Some really pretty fruit that's working, and then we got some not so pretty, but I understand also with a CSA that you have people that might be able to tolerate a misshapen fruit. My members tell me that all the time. See down here, you can see some bites. You can see a little damage on those two here, and this one's damaged. Now these apples, by the way, become what we would call in the business unmarketable. You could not sell these to like a grocery store. They will not take that. That's an unmarketable apple. That's a cull. That's what we would call that. Any apple that has this much disfiguration or discoloration, no self-respecting Shaw's is going to allow that into their store. That's an unmarketable fruit. So a farmer cannot sell it to these big buyers. It's considered waste product.
But it's a perfectly good apple.
It's a perfectly good apple, other than where it's misshapen, and it'll be a little drier, tougher in that area, and that skin won't be as soft and as tasty. That skin, that's a fact. But overall, yeah, it's a 99% good apple. Not all of them. That one is. That one's a good one. But sometimes they can be badly misshapen. See this one up here? This one is also getting it. This one's kind of got it on both sides. This is where probably it was plum curculio. It's like a weevil type insect. And she came up here, and she came and she fed on it, and she deposited eggs on this also, probably. I don't know. But it looks like a little smiley face, but that's no happy apple.
How about the pears?
We don't have a lot of pear trees. I kind of put these trees, I think we have a half a dozen here. We have eight of them. But I just want to get to learn a little bit more about these trees, and we'll add more of these. We have over 80 apple trees. But we're learning a lot about them. And this Bartlett pear looks really pretty. The tree is doing well. This one has no disease on it. And the fruit, again, very lightly sprayed this year, so showing some insect damage. But I think, for what we're doing, I think they're highly acceptable. And then over here, just take a look at a different pear. This little cutie pie right here, this is a boss pear, these little red ones. This little pie right here, actually, this is too many fruit. This is too many fruit, if there's such a thing. So I hate to say it, but what I have to do is look, that hurts, and that hurts. I take those two out, and I'm actually even probably going to take, this is the one that's on the end. The one that's nearest to the end is the biggest one. That one's up high. I'm going to take this one off the bottom. So I removed these so that these can survive, because there was no way that branch was going to make 5 fruit. So you have to do that. Actually, when you see too many, this is going to need a lot of thinning. We're not going to get that many pears off of that. But the goats will like these.
So things are looking great. I was amazed at how big a lot of these plants have gotten.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I'm also fascinated by how the difference between sustainable houses and sustainable and the average run-of-the-mill house.
What?
One of the biggest things is the care and the focus that is taken on the small details. And and I see an analogy here between what you're doing and what big farms don't do, or what the run-of-the-mill farm seems not to do, and the detail, looking for those caterpillars or finding these tiny mites and then picking them off. I mean, that's not something you do on a 40,000 acre farm.
Well, you just can't, right? It's impossible. And it's hard to do that here all the time too. But it should always be first knowing the insects, knowing when they're going to be about, and know your enemy. And oftentimes you can catch them when they're a very small problem before the problem gets big. I wanted to mention how well, you said what's new, Wes, is how well the procedure has gone with people coming in and picking up their vegetables. We come together as a community, and everybody's abided by the safety protocol, and there's no safer place to get your food. So people have been coming in and signing, using the gloves, using the masks, one person at a time. And if they're coming through the coolers, we keep everything clean. Everything's clean and bleached, in between harvests, and the refrigerator, everything's clean in this building, and we mop this out. So it really couldn't be any cleaner way to get it. And of course, we're the only ones who've ever had your food, who've ever even touched your food, is me, and my workers. So thanks to everybody for continuing to keep everything safe and so we can say that yeah, we've got the safest way that you can pick up produce. Thanks.
The produce is amazing. It's fresh. It's right around the corner from my house. I know it's coming right from the garden, and it's great. We love it. I personally prefer organic and fresh produce at the grocery store, but even when you get that, it's not anything compared to what you're getting here. So I highly recommend it.